LinkedIn, we are going to fire up your Monday.
With Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
I am Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
Over the next hour of this Master Connection series, we will take a deep dive into the different ways to connect and network effectively.
See us and hear us right now. So LinkedIn, we are on here. We're getting ready.
Hear from experts along with Steve Spiro, who went from being shy and introverted to the Master Connector.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy to be here. My name is Tim Colson, and I am joined with a wonderful group of people that you see on this screen and Steve Spiro. And this is the Master Connection series. We are ready to fire up your Monday. Say hi, everybody.
Hey.
Awesome. Cool. All right, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to introduce my main man, Steve Spiro. Steve Spiro is a martial arts black belt and a master networker. He has moved from being a shy, introverted kid to the master connector that he is today. Steve Spiro began his business career by starting an advertising company in New York City. He had an incredibly fulfilling career and experience in advertising and marketing, but he eventually pivoted to the technology industry. Today, Steve is a business automation consultant with Quadient, where he helps companies streamline and automate how they communicate and connect with their customers, leveraging artificial intelligence with both hardware and software. Steve Spiro believes in the power of mentorship, growing oneself through self-development and continuing to create meaningful connections through building a large network. Welcome to the stage, Steve Spiro.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Tim. You are amazing. I appreciate you filling in for us here today. Hey, folks, Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct here. Cameron and I really appreciate you tuning in. We're here every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We come at you with engaging content on how you, too, can be a Master Connector. During this Master Connection series, each week our goal is to gather subject matter experts to impart their wisdom on us. Welcome to the show. I am really blessed to have my co-host for today, Mr. Tim Colson. Tim Colson is the founder of Tri-State Legacy Group. Tim founded the Tri-State Legacy Group with the intention of bringing a holistic planning experience to those in need of risk management solutions in the Tri-State area. Tim is an amazing personal story that impassions him to provide insurance for individuals to help protect them and their family. Timothy has been practicing in the financial industry since 2013 and enjoys educating others on financial strategies available to them. Tim provides life, accident, and health insurance licensed in 8 states, including New York, New Jersey. Timothy resides with his wife, Emily, and their children in Hudson Valley area. He's an active member of his church, holding positions with the marriage ministry and community discipleship ministry. He's also an avid New York Rangers fan, a hockey fan there. Look at that. And he loves to coach youth hockey within his community. So please welcome back to the stage, the tenacious Tim Colson.
Oh, thanks, guys. I like that little tenacious Tim Colson thing. I might have to hang on to that. Man, there's a lot of financial stuff in that bio. I got to change that. So I'm a lot more than just a financial guy, but super blessed to be here. Super excited to be hanging out with you all on a Monday. I mean, I've been an admirer of the show for a long time, and I feel really blessed to be a part of it. So with that being said, I am going to introduce our first guest, Miss Courtney Stanley. Miss Courtney Stanley. So let's bring you up to stage here. There you go. So everybody can say hi. Awesome.
Hey guys, it's great to be here.
Awesome. So Courtney Stanley is a recognized globally award-winning change maker, keynote speaker, and event MC. She's an acclaimed director of a women-inspired podcast, Dare to Interrupt. Courtney has spent 10 years helping professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations engage in game-changing, impactful conversations that empower individuals to tap into their true potential, improve team and culture dynamics, and drive meaningful change. Once again, welcome Courtney Stanley.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I'm excited to get to know you and our other panelists here today, because I think there are a lot of really great experts, and I'm excited to dig in.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Great having you here, Courtney, with us. Phenomenal. All right. Well, I am blessed to get to introduce Virginie Glazner. And I'm probably butchering the last name, so apologize. You can correct me later, Virginie. But as a conscious leader and successful co-founder of Acorn Oak Agency, headquartered in New York City, Virginie is responsible for designing digital marketing and sales funnel strategies to drive sustainability and for helping leaders and their teams to navigate complexity with confidence and clarity of thought. She is a co-author of the book Leadership Singularity and the host of Pass the Mic podcast, a podcast that aims to bring compassion and conscious leadership to businesses and in our personal lives. Originally from France, she has moved to the U.S. in 1999, co-founded 3 tech startups, and began her journey to immerse herself in conscious leadership training in various disciplines such as psychology, wisdom, traditions, and awareness of mindfulness practices. So please bring to the stage the amazing Virginie Glazner.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to discuss this fantastic and fascinating topic around this professional identity that might actually get in the way of connection, innovation, and change. So looking forward to hearing what other people have to say about that.
Fantastic. All right.
Awesome. All right. And now I'm going to introduce our last guest, and I hope I do not butcher your name. I mean, I said I'm a hockey fan, so I'm gonna roll with some French, some Canadian French that I've learned from being a hockey fan. So I'd like to welcome Estelle Poirier. Did I fancy that up too much, or?
That is perfect, Tim.
Great.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you
That
so
is
much.
perfect.
All right.
Wonderful.
So a little bit about Estelle. Estelle is a bilingual French gal on a life mission to leave the earth a better place than she found it. Through her clutter-free living consulting business, she empowers women to become the best version of themselves through decluttering their life for increased authentic happiness. Please welcome to the stage, Estelle.
Bonjour, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm looking forward to chatting with you on this hour and getting to know you guys more. Thank you. Merci.
Fantastic. Good
Awesome.
stuff. Good having everybody. And so make sure those of you who are joining us on the webcast here, on the broadcast, please tell us where you're coming in from. We want to hear from you. We want to know what state, what city, where you're from. If you're from another country, like Estelle, joining us from the beautiful country of Canada, to wherever you're from. So please chime in with that. Tim is also going to be posting some questions later. So feel free to chime in. We want to hear your questions too. We have prepared some questions, but we want to hear from you. This show is dedicated to you folks. It's not about us. It's not about even the panelists. It's about you and how we can hopefully add value, empower you, and be that kind of encouraging light for you guys. So please make sure you comment, you share the link out. And if you're watching this on the replay, make sure you type in #replay if you're coming in watching viewing on the replay. We appreciate that. So, but I'm going to start us off with the first question, and I'm going to give us a little bit of context here. So, I do a decent amount of networking calls, probably 3 to 4 a day, and I was blessed to be able to initially speak with Virginie on this. And we were struggling, or at least I was struggling a little bit with, okay, how do we make a show out of this topic? It sounds super intriguing. So Virginie did a lot of research, and not research, but a lot of thinking, and really kind of came up with some of the questions here that I think you guys are going to get a lot of value on. And so the first question that I'll pose to everybody, and that is, how does our professional identity get in the way of connection, innovation, and change? Okay. And I know that we have kind of a backstage chat room. So if anyone wants to start that, but I would think that Virginie, since this is your idea in the beginning of this, maybe you want to start us off, and I'll let you, Tim, kind of coordinate who's going to go next from here.
Yes, well, thank you. I'm really excited to talk about this because I'm actually struggling with the answers. And I know that we have this tendency to rush to answers instead of just letting a space. So I'm going to share 3 things that I think are the reasons why our professional identity gets in the way. So to that question, my answer is it does prevent us to become fully who we are. And here's three ideas. So number one, as soon as I choose a story about who I think I am, I got myself a full-time job. And so my job is to protect this new identity. I'm going to have to be on script. And every time that I'm going to make choices, it has to be consistent with this person that I think I am, whether it's I'm a CMO or a VP of marketing or whatever job or professional identity I have. So number one, it gives me a full-time job. Number two, the reason why it gets into our way of connecting and innovating, it's because the question, who do you think you are, is usually answered by I am. You know, if you ask me the question, I am a woman, I'm a CMO, I'm a mother. Well, I am is self-preservation. And preservation means protection and survival. That allows me to feel secure and safe. But here's the question. Why would I need to preserve my sense of self if I felt safe in the first place? So that's number two. And the final thing that I want to leave you and hoping to start a conversation is that in the business world today, our professional identity separates people based on their differences instead of bringing them together based on what they have in common. And I've seen in the last 30 years since I've started working, a fight between sales and marketing, right? Like cats and dogs. Today, I'm seeing the same type of conflict between marketing and engineering because, of course, the world is evolving in a digital way. So any organization today is a digital organization first and foremost. Or we can also talk about the legacy issue between VPs and non-VPs. So professional identity separates people instead of bringing what they have in common. I'm just going to throw that out and see if anyone wants to respond or if that triggers any feeling or questions or thoughts.
That's awesome. So now we're going to have Courtney answer that. If you're, as you're watching this, feel free to drop your thoughts and your comments and your answers in the chat. All right. And let's bring Courtney to the stage.
Sounds good. And I also want to give a shout out and a hello to my friend Vanessa, who's in the audience today. Hi, Vanessa. It's been forever. So I think there were a lot of really great points made. And actually, I did not prepare for this conversation at all. So what you're getting is definitely just honest feedback. And a lot of it is based on personal experience that I've had. So I've shifted roles, but also shifted industries and types of jobs that I've had in my career over the past decade. And I think one of the greatest challenges that I've faced is within every position that I've held, I've really prioritized building a brand that represents who I am and what I'm doing now. So as I've zigzagged and I've transitioned and tried new and different things, one of the greatest challenges that I have had is being able to reposition what I'm doing now, who I am now, how I've changed, and how I can serve my community in a different way, and kind of fighting that, oh, don't you work in event technology? And having the conversation of, actually, I haven't worked in event technology in a handful of years. This is what I'm up to now. But constantly having that conversation about your evolution and where you are now professionally, I think that's been one of the greater challenges in terms of my professional identity and how people assume, based on maybe our last conversation or what they've seen on social media years ago, that they know what I'm up to, who I am, and what I'm about now. To go a step in a different direction, I also think that we all do this to each other. I think we perceive and we absorb and we assume we know who people are and what they do and what they bring to the table just based on the information that we're constantly consuming, whether that's having a conversation 3 years ago or whether that's seeing somebody post on LinkedIn today. So I think a lot of times we hold ourselves back from really truly being able to connect with other people because we just assume that we know the person's story. So I think there's a lot of really great opportunity to open those doors and have greater conversations now and find out what people are up to now, who they serve, who they are, and how we can connect with them more deeply.
That was really, really great insight. So we want to get Estelle involved. So Estelle, why don't you give us your thoughts?
Thank you very much. Actually, I cannot stop thinking about this wonderful person that I worked with years ago. I was working in a hotel, and there was this guy who was working. I guess he was an attendant in a parking lot in Old Quebec. And the hotel where I was working, they noticed him, and I guess it was word to mouth. People were talking about him. They thought, "Oh my goodness, this guy's got this great personality. He's got this magnetic personality." And the hotel said, and they convinced him to come work with us at the hotel. And this guy was he had this wonderful personality. And not only at work, he was a very authentic person at work. I've noticed, and I could feel it. Everybody could feel it. He was authentic with his coworkers, and he was very authentic with our clients. And I had the chance of meeting him outside of work. And the guy, his name was David, I believe. And he was the same exact person. So his professional identity and his personal identity were completely merged. They were connected. They were like merging. So I've always remembered this person, and now he's a lawyer. And to be honest, if I needed the services of a lawyer, to be perfectly honest, he's probably the first person that I would have in mind, just because his personality was incredible, and it was the same exact personality both at work and in his personal life. So he did not have two different personalities, which I find so it's amazing. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you.
That's awesome. So we have people are going wild in the comments right now, which that's awesome. And I think that's like the best part about a live broadcast is like you can go into something with a particular set of questions set up, but then it can all like it can just open up, especially with such a deep topic. So I want to shout out Mama Spiro. She has a question for us, and it is, can we have more than one identity? So Steve, I'm going to pitch this one to you. Why don't you drop some knowledge on us, man?
Absolutely. It's funny because we could probably cover this, Mom and I, at Thanksgiving dinner coming up. But anyway, I'll share, and I appreciate the question, the perspective. I think, yes, we do have some identities, right? When I was in the martial arts, I was the double black belt. I have that role. When you're in the business world, you have that role, right? I think identity, there's sort of a business identity, but I do want to take it a step further. I think who we are, it needs to go deeper than that. And not always our professional identity should it really determine who we are. I have a good friend of mine. He's pretty wealthy, financially independent. And when people ask him, what do you do? His answer is, well, I fish, I travel, I spend a lot of time with my family. That is his answer. And it doesn't have to be about his, professional identity. Right. And I think sometimes it becomes a bit of a crutch for people where they want to hide behind it a bit. And I think that, you always want to be who you are. You need to be, authentic. You need to be transparent. I'm a big believer in being authentic and transparent. But at the same time, let's be honest, right? If you're at a corporate boardroom, right, I don't think they want to hear about your fishing exploits and a lot about your family more than likely, although there's a time and a place for that, and that's small talk, but they want to hear about the professional side of what you're going to bring to the table. So again, there's a time and a place, but I think sometimes people get really wrapped up in it. And I think it's created, it's a controversial topic right now to a degree. We have the great resignation going on where a lot of people are leaving jobs because they're like, wait, is this it? is this what my life is going to be like for the next 45 years? I'm going to be sitting, either it be remote in my home, in front of a PC or computer with, 2 or 3 screens nowadays, right? Or, if they're in a cubicle or whatever they happen to be, right? Is this it for me? And I think there's a questioning of going on with that. And what's always helped me, and again, I don't want to be redundant. A lot of the viewers know, or Tim may know this as well, that I have a personal mission statement, and that personal mission statement steers me and guides me. And so whatever my professional background is or was, that's great. I acknowledge it. But the personal mission statement is really going to be the North Star for how I live my life, and kind of really what my true identity is about, right? It's not about Steve Spiro, the consultant, the business automation guy, the speaker on a LinkedIn live show. Yeah, those are pieces of my life, but my true identity is really what my mission is, which, as you guys have heard, which is really to inspire people and be the light and really be a blessing to people and see how we can add value to people. And there's a lot more to it, but that's it. So anyway, I'll toss it back to you, Tim. I think we have another question, unless we want to continue on with this conversation on this particular topic.
Yeah, no, we do have another question. So what I would like to pose to the audience, though, is to the business owners out there, real quick, drop in the comments what your mission statement is or what your purpose is. We would love to know. I think it's a good, as Steve was saying, it's a really great true north to keep yourself focused and aligned and just moving in the right direction. So if you're a business owner and you're watching this, in the comments, please drop what your mission statement is, and also share the broadcast. So the next question we have, this is a big one. So how do we make sense of ourselves and of the world through a professional identity lens? Who wants to take that one?
So if before we go into the second question, which is also a very big question, I'd love to rebound on what Steve just said about bringing our authentic self, and even Estelle's story, which was beautiful. And I think that's what everybody wants, is to go to work knowing that you're able to be who you truly are. And I think, having a, what do you call, a word or a mission, helps you stay aligned with who you are. But I would rephrase it differently. Instead of having a mission, which is just a bunch of words, I would go into the feeling. And one way for me to know if I'm being authentic, because our mind is very tricky. The mind will want to make you fit in, wants to make you stay in control, be liked, right? Because we're social beings. So your voice will change the reality just for you to fit in. And so instead of asking yourself, what's my true self? What's my North Star, to make sure that we're authentic, the way that I do it is I ask myself, what brings me energy? And that question requires you to check in with your body, with your feeling, with your emotion, with your sensation. It's no longer about the thinking. That could be the rationalization. You have a story in your head. And even though you say, no, I don't have a strong identity, I know how to find that balance, it's still in your head. And so I would go away from the head and back into the body to know what brings me energy when I do that type of work, or that type of meeting, or that type of, having those type of relationship. Does that bring me energy or not? And then you'll know if you're really your true self, or if there's a misalignment. So that's one thing that I just wanted to add.
Tim, I would like to just kind of bounce with Virginie for a minute. I agree with you 100%, Virginie, in terms of the feeling, right? And I will challenge a little bit of what you're saying and say this. Feeling is extremely important, wholeheartedly. If your mission statement or your vision does not elicit a feeling or emotion, then it is purely just words. Completely 100% agree with you. So if you are going to come up with a vision, or a mission statement, sometimes people need to articulate it, because some of us are logical beings. Some of us are very feeling beings, right? And, the logical, and I'm probably more on the logical side, I need to be able to write it out to be able to kind of come up with exactly what I want to do, how I want to live my life, and how that makes me feel. So when it's funny, I did a networking meeting just this past Friday morning, and I was blessed in that I was asked to do a showcase, and I spoke about, the life of a master connector, the day in the life of a master connector. And in the middle of my presentation, I read my mission statement. And if you were there for it, you would see I choked up. I got very emotional. I had to stop three times and catch myself. And so there is feeling there. If your mission does mean so much to you, that you will be emotional. So I just wanted to say that. I'm agreeing with you, Virginie, but I'm also giving a different perspective of what you said. Turn it back to you, Tim.
Awesome. So I just threw a question up for the audience. Do you feel like your profession is your identity? So feel free to drop that in the comments. I know we're talking about some heavy stuff here today, so we're here for all of it.
I want to jump in there before we go back to the question that you asked, because I think the question that you posed to the audience is really interesting. Does your professional identity basically define your identity or who you are? And I think there's a little bit of danger here in associating who you are in your professional world and your work life and the job that you hold with who you actually are as a person. I don't think that we are what we do. And I don't think that our value as human beings or the worth that we bring to the table in our communities is directly tied to the work that we do. And the reason why I feel this way is because, especially in the past couple of years, so many people have lost their jobs. And one of the challenges that people have really grappled with in losing their jobs is really losing their sense of self. And I think this is a really great opportunity, especially for people who've gone through this or maybe are currently going through this, to really explore what identity means to you. So if you were to take away your professional identity, your job, your role, the money that you make, the status that you have, the power that you have, if that were to be taken away or removed, who are you? What is your identity? And how can you make sure that you're in touch with who you really are and what you bring to the table without a professional title attached? I think that's food for thought. It's something that I have really, considered over the years. And I am someone who has lost their job not once, but twice. And I've gone through these types of mental exercises and just self-exploration to really understand my identity versus what I do for work. I think there's a difference.
Yeah. So I don't want to take time away from the panelists. Honestly, it's so weird that this is the topic that we're dicing up, but this has been heavily on my mind the last couple months. So I had a major medical thing happen a few months ago that's really, it's caused me to question a lot of stuff in my life. Not question stuff, but like just reevaluate, like what's my purpose? Is everything fluid? You know what I mean? Like, am I only a financial guy? And I think like, I almost cringed when I heard my bio before. I love what I do. I feel like I make a huge impact on the people I serve. But I feel like there's so many more layers than just the financial guy. So I'm enjoying this. I just want to give time for the panelists. So, maybe we can all talk offline about it, but yeah. So did anybody else want to?
Looks like Estelle's raising her finger. Yes. So why don't we call on Estelle?
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting topic, interesting concept, and I appreciate everything that you guys said. And it reminds me of a friend that I had in the past, and she would always say to me, Estelle, the job that I have, I will study hard, I will get a job, and I will work at that job until one day I will decide to retire. And on Monday to Friday, I will be working really hard for that job. But on Friday at 5 p.m., for instance, I close the door on that job, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I will go back to it only on Monday morning. So I personally don't necessarily understand that. I respect that, but I don't necessarily understand that way of thinking. So for me, in the past, I had several jobs. I worked in different fields, and I guess I have a very atypical background. And up until I started this company, my consulting company, I guess I was working 9 to 5 jobs and closing the door on Friday at 5 p.m. And I guess that's the kind of life that I had, but it didn't really fit with me. I'm more the kind of person that is looking for a life's mission. So this consulting business that I started, it's not easy at all to be an entrepreneur, but you know what? This is my life's project. This is my life's mission. So in a way, I would say, yes, completely. My professional identity is tied into the self, is tied into who I am as a person. I guess I want to leave the earth a better place than I found it. I want to tell people that there is hope in the world. Declutter yourself internally, externally. So both are completely connected in my case. So yeah, thank you.
It's great.
So
Thanks,
Steve, I
Jennifer
know that you
Bauman.
wanted to chime in real quick, so I wanted to bring you
Yeah,
up.
yeah, I do, and I, it's interesting. This is a topic that kind of is heavy on my heart. I work with a lot of young folks coming out of college, and many of which I've been blessed to mentor. And then there's this sort of, I think there's this challenge or debate in their own mind. Maybe it's societal pressure, maybe it's the education system as it is, the pressure of that. I don't know. Maybe it's peer pressure around. Maybe it's parental pressure. But there's this pressure and stress to find what you're going to do for the rest of your life that you're going to be passionate about. And in my opinion, I think it's trying to find a unicorn. It's like impossible to find. Now, let me state. I really enjoy what I do, all pieces of it. I really do. Here's the question of, if it's your passion, you would do it for free for 25 years. Then it's your passion, right? Most people do what they do. They really want to enjoy it. They want it to leverage their skills and talents, and they enjoy it. And they kind of call it a passion, but I'm not so sure it's a passion unless you do it for free. Now, most people can't afford to do it for free. So it's great when you could kind of find something that you really enjoy that is close to being a passion. But let me ask you this, like for me, I love traveling. I love helping my family, and I really want to have a lot of peace of mind in my life. If I could wrap those passions into a career, bring it on. But what if you can't? What if the passions you have don't fit nice and neat into a career or profession? Now what? Well, what if what you do, you enjoy it, but it allows you the time and the money to then pursue your passions? Is that acceptable? I think it is. But I think the world judges people for that. They're like, no, you have to find your passion in what you do. And again, if you found it, I am so happy for you. But again, I still ask the question, would you do it for free for 25 years? If that's the case, then you did find your passion and you're doing it in your career. So I'll just drop that bomb and pass it over to you, Tim.
So we have, So we have another question, but I mean, does anybody want to pick that bomb up and run with it while we're tossing bombs around?
I agree with Steve. I think specifically the point around there being so much pressure to just find that thing, find that passion, and pursue it. And I think you're really fortunate if you have found that thing. I think that the facade, especially on social media, is that everybody's living their best life and everybody's 100% thrilled with what they're doing, and their life is great and it's perfect. But I really think that not that many people have found that one thing that they absolutely love to do day in and day out. And I think that it could be something to strive toward. I also love what I do. I've built my own business, and to Estelle's point, I think a part of me is definitely tied to the impact of the work that I do. But I think that it's unfair to ask everybody or tell everybody that the expectation is for you to spend at least 40 hours a week doing that one thing that you absolutely were meant to do and love to do. I think it's absolutely okay to work to pay your bills. I think that's totally okay. I think to each their own. I think if you want to go after and really hone in on that one thing, that passion, that purpose, and grow it, that's fantastic. If you want to go to work and enjoy your colleagues and the work that you do, but it's maybe not, it's not the thing that really lights you up the most, but you still love your life, that's great too. I think there's a lot of pressure.
I agree, and I'm gonna get vulnerable for a second, if that's okay, Steve. We cool with that?
Please.
So I've actually lived through this experience this year. So I alluded to it a little bit before. I had a medical thing happen earlier in the year, caused me to sit back and just reevaluate things and make sure that like everything I was doing was aligned with what I felt like my purpose was, my calling, and if I was happy. And now to all of my, if there's any financial clients of mine that are watching this, I love finance. It's interwoven into my life. It's never going to not be a part of my life. But for the last 6 or 7 years, I have just fallen in love with marketing. I love it. I love every single aspect of marketing. And when I got out of the hospital, I started a marketing company. Even though I have been helping people for years, like I just didn't advertise it, you know? So I started to advertise it, and things got a bit weird. Like people were like, what are you doing? Like you're a financial, like it's almost like there was this pressure, like, dude, you've been a financial guy for the last 8 years. Like, why would you start a marketing company? And I could explain it till I was blue in the face, but I felt that pressure, you know? And I mean, I've gotten past it because now it's been a legit company for the last like 6 months or whatever. But I totally felt that pressure. And I wonder how many people felt that same pressure and they couldn't get past it. Does that make sense? So I'm just like, I'm enthralled by this conversation. I love it, but yeah. So
if I can add something, Tim, I appreciate that you're being so vulnerable, because I think what you've gone through, a lot of people, if not everyone, goes through, and that's why the more we attach ourselves, our sense of self, to the stories around our job or professional identity, the harder it is to actually adapt and go into life being like flow. Because as Tim was saying, as you were saying, you know, you're not going to make a life with one job. You are more than a job, first of all, and life is always fluid. So we experience things and then it takes us in different direction. So when we attached our identity and our sense of self to the job, then it's harder to move away because people expect you to stay put, to stay, you know, because they're comfortable with who you are, the same way that your mind is comfortable. And so, but if you're able to go through life with attaching yourself loosely to that title, to this persona, and it's really challenging because in our world now we're telling individuals to build their own personal brand. So there's an attachment here, but that's a whole different discussion. So I think what you just said really shows how difficult it is to move away from something if we're attached to it.
Yeah, totally. So Courtney just put in the chat, you are not your title, your salary, or your status. I could not agree with that more. So if you're watching this and you need to be encouraged, please know that you're not all these things. You're created with a purpose. You have strong purpose on your life. We have a lot of stuff going on in the comments. I do want to move to the next question, and I'm going to pose it to Virginia, if that's okay. Let's just see here. It is, how do we make sense of ourselves and of the world through a professional identity lens?
Yeah, this one is not an easy question. Even the way that it's formulated is actually, it brings a level of complexity. But I think the reason of that question is about really stepping backward and understanding that the way that we perceive the world is conditioned by our perception of our job. So it's almost like we've put, as soon as we attached ourselves, our identity to something, we put on a pair of glasses. And those filters are going to determine what we see and how we see it. And even will create the experience that we go in our daily lives. So being aware of those filters that we put on makes us understand how we make sense of the world. And if we want to change our perception of the world, it's about going back inside. It's really about this inner leadership that we're talking about, taking the time to reflect and not expecting the world to change, but really going deep down and sitting down and taking a pen and a piece of paper and asking ourselves those questions, because we have the answers within ourselves.
That's awesome. So we're going to pass it over to Steve. He wants to chime in.
Absolutely. Very, very cool. There's some funny stuff going on backstage. And Estelle, I know you're on your phone, so you can't see the chat, private chat. So just feel free to just chime in or something. We could actually see your face backstage. Tim and I can. So if you want to put your finger up, if you're ready at any point to chime in, just let us know. But yeah, so I just wanted to comment a little bit about this one. It is a very difficult question, and it is an important one. And I'll just say it like this. I think it's why we're starting to see people gravitating towards personal brand, personal identity on social media like LinkedIn, like other Instagram and so forth. I think we're seeing it because people want to come up with a personal brand of themselves that isn't necessarily tied to their profession. Gary Vee has done a great job of creating a personal brand about himself that's not really tied to his profession. I picked Master Connector because it kind of composes of all the things I do, but it also is the essence of what I'm about. Not necessarily my profession, although it does tie in to a degree. So I think if we could come up with ways in which we could kind of figure out who and what we're about. And again, huge believer of being transparent, being authentic. I'm not suggesting create a brand that is not you or some kind of version of you. There's a lot of that going on Instagram, especially Facebook, where people are trying to pose as being these, they travel the world and they're just jet setters. And in fact, it's probably maybe 3 days of the 365 days that's their life, but they're posing as that. So you have to be authentic. You have to be who you are. But perhaps the reason it's become so popular is because it's allowing us to now not really build ourselves based around our profession, right? Who are you? What do you do? I'm an attorney. Well, that's okay. But what are you really about? And so I think this is a really good question. And yes, to Courtney's point in her backstage comment, it's a little hard, complex question, but it is a tough question, but needs to be asked and needs to be talked about. So I'll pass it back to whoever wants to go next, because I am pretty much out of what I could say about this one.
Why don't we give Estelle a shot here? You want to jump in on this one, Estelle?
Yes, absolutely. I guess I really enjoyed what Virginie was saying when, Virginie, you were mentioning about connecting to our internal world, to go back to internally. And I guess it's very important. And our whole life, we evolve, we change, we learn. So yeah, it's important to always reconnect with ourselves, to get to know ourselves better, so that we can find on a daily basis who we are and what our mission is. And I guess that for me, what I'm doing right now, my consulting business, I guess that it's, like I said earlier, it's my life's mission. It's my life's project. I dream about it. I talk about it all the time. It's completely part of me. And I'll talk about it with friends, with family, with perfect strangers. This is something that I don't feel that I close the door at 5 p.m., on decluttering myself and decluttering externally as well, and living intentionally. It's something that that is part of me daily. So it's part of my identity, and I respect the people that maybe will identify to different things in their personal life and in their professional life, and they will combine that, and it will be a great combination, and it will be a great life for them, and they will be very happy like that. So yeah, I guess that we evolve, and we change, we learn all the time, and it's important to know to reconnect daily with ourselves internally, emotionally, to really figure out what it is that works for us. So
That's awesome.
so yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Estelle, for that.
Esther, you just talked about evolution, and I think we have to be really mindful of what we're experiencing. Actually, Professor Julian Birkinshaw from the London Business School has written a book and talks about the sources of competitive advantage that are changing from the industrial era to the knowledge era to the post-knowledge era. And he described those three eras as the hand, the head, and the heart. And so he says that during the Industrial Revolution, manual labor was a priority. And so all organization needed was actually bodies to get the work done. And this hand phase saw managers leading with an iron fist. Micromanagement was the commonplace. And after that, there was the information revolution known as the head phase, which was the data and knowledge phase. And so during that time, we all believed that the more knowledge a person had, the more valuable they became. And so companies wanted intelligence because information was capital. Today, and that's where we are right now, is that the world is moving towards the heart phase. And the heart phase is where we're being told to become emotionally intelligent so that we can adapt and navigate complex situations. And so in that phase that we are in, there's an adaptation that we have to understand. And that goes back to going back and checking what brings me energy, emotionally, physically, in my senses. Because even though we're sitting at a desk for a lot of people, 8 hours or more per day in our head, we're a physical being first and foremost. And so those stories, those identity that we're talking about is because we're thinking too much. That's it. If we stopped thinking for a little bit and felt this human experience, this sitting at the desk, how am I feeling? And that's not easy because that's not what we've been told. And we haven't learned this at school. We've learned to learn by heart, replicate, and become productive because that's what we needed. But now it's about being creative and understanding that a life, which is very short, can have multiple paths, but it will require courage because change is very hard. There's a conflict in our head. We don't want to change. Other people don't want us to change. So I'll leave you with that.
Oh, I love it. If I may say, connecting in the basis, that's it, Virginie. That's so important, and connecting to how we are feeling and what it is that we truly desire, and using our senses on a daily basis. Oh, that is so critical, so major, so important. Thank you. That's very well said. And yes, we we think a lot. We are in our head a lot, but do we feel with our senses? I'm not quite sure. Good point here.
Awesome. So I'm going to pass the ball to Steve.
Absolutely. I think it's time for, maybe as we're getting towards the 15 minutes to go on the show. How do we feel is the third question here. How do we feel ourselves? How do we free ourselves and move away from our social identity? So let me see. Anyone want to grab that question? I think we're sort of talking about that as we are already, right? I think we're kind of covering a lot of that already. Virginia, you're
yes.
Yeah.
This is the real question, because we can debate for hours on end about, is this good to have a social identity? You know, how can it support me? And there's always going to be pluses and minuses. But really, once we understand that any story whatsoever, whatever the story is really fundamentally a box, which can be, again, useful for a certain context or a certain time, but it is a box. As soon as I step into that box and I take my suit and become this identity, it means that I'm stuck. So how do we free ourselves and move away from our social identity for greater connection? Right? If I go into a meeting and I don't have this title that people will see, oh, she's the CMO, so that's her story. This is what we expect of her. You know, instead, I'm just coming to participate to a project. I'm here to co-create. I'm here to collaborate. I have questions more than answers. And I have a few ideas of how we can do that in the business world and even in our own lives. But I would love to hear what others have to say.
I think for me, this comes down to relationship building. I think going back to even the first conversation that we were having with the first question that was posed, I think that there are a lot of perceptions that we have. We have perceptions about everybody, about every single person that's in the room with us. We make assumptions based on the information, the interactions, the things that we see, the things that we hear, the things we assume. And I think the best way to combat really stonewalling any sort of relationship with that person based on our perception is by actually knocking down that wall and having a conversation. So something that I actually have encouraged people to do so I'm a full-time keynote speaker. I'm also a coach, a brand coach and a career coach. And one of the exercises that I've asked some people in my circle or clients that I've had is to think about one person in your world that if you were to go down a list of people, you would stop on that name and you would say, not so much. Maybe I don't really want to reach out to them, connect to them, ask how they're doing. When you have those people whose names pop up in your feed, or you hear their name and you get that just maybe a little bit of a confused or a negative feeling about that person, that's a really great opportunity for you to dig in deeper and to ask yourself, why do I feel that way? Do I really actually know this person and who they are? Or is it purely based on perception or assumption based on the things that I've heard about this person, or maybe just very briefly seen? That's, I believe, the key is building relationships with people that we have questions about and getting to know them on a deeper level in order to challenge the perceptions that you have about those particular people. I think it starts with opening the door and having a real conversation.
So Stella, would you like to hop in on that?
Yes, I guess. Wow, that's wow. What you guys said, it's just really, really amazing. And it reminds me when I was doing my accompanying person training, the Dr. Daniel Dufour, we were doing a training with him, and he said it's very important to do our best on a daily basis to leave our ego behind and actually go in the world, go in a consultation, go in your professional life, go in your personal life, wherever, to go with this ego-free mind, this ego-free self, where you can get to know people for truly who they are. And so by doing that, when we leave our ego behind as much as we can, we're not inclined to judge. We're more enthusiastic to get to know one another, to really get to know people for who they really are. And yeah, I guess that comes down to it for me. Thank you.
Awesome, Steve. Why don't you chime in as we're getting ready to close things out?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. This has definitely been a very deep episode, a deep conversation. And so, for me, being a guy from the Bronx, shy, introverted, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, I think this wasn't so hard. Well, it was initially hard for me because I think what happened was I tried to protect who I was really with the outside title. Okay. Like double black belt, right? I could hide behind that, or I had an advertising company. I could hide behind that. And I think I learned, AK Brene Brown, to be vulnerable and to lead with my weaknesses, right? At one point I talk about how, I got out of the advertising and I wound up going into the copier industry. And I tell people this all the time. I said, but below the chimpanzee and the orangutan on the evolutionary scale is the copier salesperson. And so I'm okay with that, with saying those things, because now it's okay. It's part of who I am. And I don't have to hide behind it because I could just be vulnerable. I could just be honest. So I think when we, and Estelle, you sort of touched on a little bit, and maybe everyone did so far, as just being who you are and not having to hide behind a title, I think is really the big takeaway that I'm having from this conversation is going to really help people out there, the viewers. So that's my 2 cents. Wanted to share that. Tim, I'll throw it to you.
All right, awesome. So like Steve said, we've had a really, really deep episode. I mean, I feel the weight of it. So I just want to go around and each of our panelists just give your final thoughts on our conversation today and anything else you'd like to throw in there.
And also you may want to add, how people could reach you as well. I would add
Yes.
that, whether it's LinkedIn or YouTube or whatnot.
So we're going to start with Courtney. All right.
Sounds great. Well, I want to thank you all again for being a super active and engaged audience. I think that proved a lot of value to our group here today. And I also want to thank my fellow speakers for being here. I would say if I could leave the audience with one final question to allow you to just do a little bit more work on your own and thinking about who you are and your identity and your purpose, I would ask you to think about when somebody asks you at a family event, at a networking event, on a Zoom call, whatever it is, when somebody says to you, "Tell me about yourself," I want you to think about how you would normally respond. And then I want you to ask yourself if that's really giving a full picture of who you actually are. So yes, you can talk about what you love to do, especially if you're fortunate to really, truly love what you're doing. That's a great way to share that information. But also, if this person is really trying to connect with you on a deeper, more human level, are you giving them that opportunity? And then also listening in return and really, truly wanting to get to know them beyond just their title and what they do. So that's my final thought for the day. For anybody who wants to stay in touch, get connected with me, I'm super active here on LinkedIn. So Courtney Stanley, really easy to find. I've also been hopping around in the chat, so you can probably just click on my link from there. You can also check out my speaking and coaching services and MC services at courtney-stanley.com, and I'll drop that in the chat as well. Or just get social with me on really any network at Courtney on Stage. Thank you guys for having me here today. This was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Courtney, for joining us. So we're going to hop over to Estelle.
Bonjour, everyone. So on a last note, I would like to say I would love to connect with you, with all of you. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Steve, and forgot your name. I guess I'm a little bit nervous. That's what it would be. And Timothy, yes. Steve and Timothy, I wanted to thank you so much for the invitation today and to the other panelists. It's been really amazing. Really enjoyed that. Thank you so much. If you want to get social with me, on LinkedIn, I'm at Estelle Poiré. And on Instagram, I am at clutterfree_Estelle. Would love to connect with you. And I guess on a final note, once again, I would like to say, connecting daily with who you are, connecting with, like Virginie would say, like you said so well, to connect with our senses on a daily basis, to connect with who you truly are. to connect with your senses, with how you're feeling internally is very important. And along the way, there will be people in your life that will connect with you, people who will be on the same, people who will get you, people who will be on the same frequency as you. And it's perfectly normal. Not everybody will like us. Not everybody will accept us, and that's perfectly fine. It's okay to leave our ego behind, so that we are not inclined to judging other people, and we can be more open and to get to know other people. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Virginie?
There's definitely a lot of unlearning that has to happen to free ourselves from this social identity. And it doesn't mean that we are removing the responsibility that, or the role, or the work itself that we've decided to take on. But I think this egotistic driven social identity that fights for who the person thinks they are, that's really getting in the way within organization. And the one last idea that I want to leave everyone with, and that was part of the last question, how do we free ourselves and move away from our social identity for greater connection and innovation? I think I agree with Courtney that it's, if you are bringing and adding conversation with people by adding diversity to those conversations. And so within the company, what I've seen work really well was to do a little bit like growth hacking teams in marketing, where you put a marketing designer, engineer, and data analyst together to work on a growth campaign. You can do that also by mixing departments. So instead of having people according to their social identity, separate from others, you actually mix them. And that's, I think, what's going to how organization will look like in the future, or at least those who will thrive in this new economy, will have this fluidity within themselves. They will be, by design, the organization where people are not put a sticker on based on their identity, but more on their ability and their creativity and what they want to bring to the conversation. So mixing departments to begin with on various projects, I think that can be an enormous change. I want to thank the panelists and Tim for inviting me. It was a lovely conversation. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can Google my name, Virginie Glanzer, and you'll find me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, and any other social media networks. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Today's been an incredible episode. I'm going to turn it over to Steve to close us out.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been tremendous and, pretty deep. I think it's been deep, but it's been great and definitely add value for a lot of our viewers. And feel free, if you can, as was mentioned before, share it out on your social, share out the link. People could watch this on the replay. And I think people need to hear this message. And it's a message that is important. And one of those messages that I think it's a little uncomfortable, so people avoid it. I think that's typically what happens. And I think, that's why this has been challenging for us to talk about it, because it's one of those conversations or topics that people just want to push under the rug. But again, I appreciate everybody being on here. I think it was great. And again, our mission on this planet and mission for this show is to be the light. Tim, I want to say a special thank you for stepping in and being a co-host for Cameron. Cameron, we miss you, but we're in great hands with Tim here. We appreciate Tim stepping up. Tim, you did a fantastic job. And all the panelists, you guys did amazing. You ladies did amazing. Really, really well done. Again, with such a tough topic. Please connect with each and every one of the folks here on all the different platforms. You can see their LinkedIn connections and other ways. Make sure to connect with them for sure, individually, and really go beyond the professional side and get into that connection. I don't mean anything weird or awkward or inappropriate, but connect with them on a personal level, not necessarily only professional. And again, in a very weird way. You understand that. So, but anyway, because I know there's a lot of stuff out there, that is inappropriate. I'm not speaking about that, right? But anyway, so we're gonna end the show here, especially as I start to put up my foot in my mouth and the leather of my shoe is starting to feel a little bit tasty. So let me stop here. But we're gonna end as we always do with a countdown to Crush It. So I'm gonna count down and everyone's gonna shout out Crush It. So please feel free to join in. Viewers, you could type in Crush It, or you could yell out Crush It, and as you're sitting in your cubicle or in your house on your computer. So let's close it out as we always do. We want to be the light. We want to share the love with all the world out there. So let's count it down. 5, 4,
3,
2, 1.
1.
Crush it!
All right. Have a
Thank
great
you
week.
guys so
By the
much.
way, next week we're going to be talking about, this is going to be an interesting topic. Might be one of those topics that's going to be a bit controversial as well. We're actually going to talk about the mystery of recovery revealed. We're going to have on Connor Duffy, good friend of mine, who's a recovery coach. Ava Diamond, who actually she's an amazing young lady who's got a very cool career, runs a recovery clinic, but also has she was a fitness competitor, so she's extremely good shape. And then Marcus Ogden, who is a former NFL player, who's going to talk about his journey with recovery. And yes, the recovery is going to talk about a little bit on NA and all those that kind of recovery. So it's going to be an interesting show. Please tune in. Make sure you share it out to your community, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Tim, it's all yours, sir.
All right, everybody. Hey, happy Monday. Thank you so much for spending the last hour with us. We hope we made a positive impact on your day. Crush it, baby. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
LinkedIn, we are going to fire up your Monday.
With Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
I am Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
Over the next hour of this Master Connection series, we will take a deep dive into the different ways to connect and network effectively.
See us and hear us right now. So LinkedIn, we are on here. We're getting ready.
Hear from experts along with Steve Spiro, who went from being shy and introverted to the Master Connector.